Hello everyone, welcome to Studitable. My name is Swati and in today's video, we will be creating a project in Spring Boot using MySQL as the database and other dependencies where we'll be creating a home page. That home page will be accessible to all the users, and then there will be an admin page that will be accessible to only admins, and a user page that will be accessible to the user only. Okay, so admin cannot access the user page and the user cannot access the admin page, while the home page can be accessed to all the users of the project. So we will be creating this in Spring Boot using MySQL as the database and other dependencies that we'll see in the project in the video ahead. And after we are done, we will be testing the pages, that is if the admin can access their page through the browser by going to Chrome or any other browser and checking if the admin can access the page, and the same for the user if the user can access the page. So if I show you a sample that what we will be creating in this tutorial, then we'll first go to the browser and enter localhost 8080, and that will take you to the home page. And this is the home page of all users. This is the logo study table, the admin page, the user page, and a login page and a login screen. So the user page will be accessible to all the users. So if I click on admin, only the admin will be able to access, and if I click on user, only the user will be able to access. And login accessible to everyone. So you can either go with login, and or you can either click on admin. So I'll go and click admin, and you will be greeted with a login screen. Enter the username that we have saved in the database. So we'll be creating the project here, how we'll be saving the users in the database. So for that, we'll be using Postman to save users in the database, and we'll check if the user can access their respective pages through the browser. So here I have entered Chirag as a user with his password to access the admin page, and now if I click on login, so he can access the admin page here, and you can go back to the home screen from here and log out from this button. And if I go to home, then you can come to the home page again. We can go to the admin page. So after, if I want to check the user, so you'll see that it is forbidden for the admin to check the user page. It's forbidden. We'll go back, and then we'll again go to admin and log out. So once I have logged out, I'll again check for the user if user can access his page. So after entering the username and the password that we have saved in the database, we'll log in, and user can access the user page that is only for him. So he'll be redirected from the login page to the user page, and it's the same for him, home and the logout. So if I go back to home, then the user can access the home page, and if he wants to access admin, then admin is not accessible to him because this is forbidden status 403. The same for admin, the admin cannot access the user page and the user cannot access the admin page. And home page is accessible to everyone. So we'll go back to user and log out the user as well and go back to the home page. And this is what we'll be creating in this video. So this is a full-fledged project that we'll be creating in Spring Boot. So let's dive into the video and see how we can create this. Go to start.spring.io and start creating our project that we have just seen. So for the project, we'll choose Maven. The language is Java. The Spring Boot version 3.5.3 is better to choose a stable version and not to choose snapshots because they are still in development stage. So a stable version would be a better choice. For the group ID, we can choose com.swati. My name artifact ID would be Spring Security Demo Tutorial. Okay. Description demo project for Spring Boot. We'll be using the packaging jar and Java 17. For the dependencies, we'll go with web because we need to access some endpoints. Then dev tools that will help us to reload the project if there is any changes, and we do not have to do that manually. And the next is thymeleaf because we'll be creating HTML pages that will generate us a view in the browser. So these three dependencies we will be using and later on when we'll be making changes to the project, we'll be adding more dependencies. So with these three dependencies, you can generate the project and open the project in the IDE of your choice. Okay, so now I have generated the project and opened the project in VS Code, and this is the project, and all of the and this is the name of the project, Spring Security Demo Tutorial, the different folders, and in the pom.xml we can see the dependency that we have added, the thymeleaf dependency, the web dev tools, and others. And this is the Spring Security Demo Tutorial, the package name, and the version that we have chosen. Okay, so this is the main class that will be starting when we run the application. And plus I have also added some templates into it, the admin template, the home and the user template. So we'll not be discussing HTML templates here because this is outside the scope of this video, but you'll find this project in GitHub. Link will be there in the description. And also I have created a basic controller class that will be mapped to the template that I have created, that is home page will return the home, get mapping for admin to return admin, and get mapping for user to create the to return the and get mapping for user to return the user. So what are these? Home is the home.html, the HTML page for home. Admin will redirect us to the admin page, and user will redirect us to the user page. So if you choose any other name, make sure to rename all these with the name that you have chosen, otherwise it will not be rendered. So this is a controller class, a basic controller class, and some three templates that I have created. So how exactly is it looking, we'll go and see in the browser. So we can, first of all, but before that we have to start the application. So let's run the application, and the Spring Security Demo Tutorial started, process is running. So we'll go to localhost 8080, and this is the home page that we have created. So I can access the admin page, I can also access the user page, and there is no login page. We'll be creating the login page later. As you can see, I can access all the pages here, the admin and the user, but this is not what I wanted. I want to implement the functionality where only the admin can access the admin page and the user can access the user page. So for that we will be adding a dependencies to pom.xml, that is Spring Security, and that Spring Security will give us the authority or the flexibility to create users and grant them access based on roles. So we can create users such as admin or the user or any other user, and according to the roles they will be able to access the pages. So let's now add a dependency of Spring Security into here, into the pom.xml. So what I'll do here, I will copy this dependency here and paste. And after pasting, I'll it's Spring Boot Starter Security, and this is the name of the Spring Security, and you will also get the prompt here. Save this and restart the application. Now I have restarted, so we'll come back here and refresh the page. Okay, so for that I'll again come back and start the application again, and refresh, and now you'll see that I'll be prompted to enter a user ID and a password. So I do not have a username or a password here because nothing has been configured. But if you still want to access, then Spring give us the password in logs. If you come back to the logs, you'll see generated security password is this. So this is a random password, and this is generated every time the project is reloaded. So if you stop the application and if you run it again, then this security password will change. So this is generated randomly. So if I copy the password here and paste it in the password section, and for the username it's user, and sign in, then now I can access the pages here. Okay, So this is not a secure way to use a generated password every time. So what we'll do here, we'll be creating a Spring Security Config class that will help us to use our own usernames and passwords to access the pages that we want. Okay, so for that, first create a package of security, and in the security package we'll create a class of security config. I will annotate it with the annotation of add configuration, because this is states that under this class we will be creating some beans and there will be interdependencies between them. So this class will be handling those dependencies or those beans that will be created here. So this is a configuration class, and in here we'll be writing some methods. So first of all, we will create a security filter chain class. So public security filter chain and a object of it that has a method of HTTP security that handles the security when we access pages through the browser, such as. So we have created a class of security config with a method of security filter chain that has a Spring security class, that has an HTTP security class, which helps us to configure web-based security for any HTTP request or any web request that is coming to the page. So it will be applied to all the requests that has been added or that will be called from the browser. So here we will use HTTP dot authorize HTTP requests. Okay, so what we have done here, this is a security filter chain class that passes HTTP security. This is a security filter chain method that is a HTTP security class that will filter out the request from the web browser according to the filters that we have provided. So here we have authorized request, that is if this is the home page and all the CSS, so this will be permitted to all the users who have accessed the page, who have access to the page or who wants to access, then this particular slash, that is the home page, and the CSS section will be permitted to all of them. If the person is an admin that and has the role of the admin, then only he can access the admin. If the person has the role of the user, he can access the user. Apart from this, if there is any other request, it will not be authenticated and it will not be passed. So this is what we have done here with the request matches method of the authorized HTTP request. We have done we return http dot build. Okay, so if I go back, so now that we have created roles, now there are no users in the project or to handle these roles. So we now create users. So we will create users here, and for that we'll add a new package as model, and in this model package we'll create the class all users.java. So we'll be adding users who have an ID, username, password and role. So let's write private long ID, private string, not capital, private string, username, copy this, password, and here is role. Okay, so these are the four fields that we have: an id, a username, a password, and role. So we'll be generating getters and setters here. So source action, generate getters and setters for all the fields that we have. All right, so this is all for this class. Create a repository first. So again, a package of a repository, and the class is all users repository. Okay, and this is an interface, it's not a class. And add the MySQL dependency here. So go to pom.xml and starter data JPA. So copy this and I'll paste it here, and Spring Boot starter data JPA. Okay, dependency as well, com.xml. MySQL connector J, you can skip the version. Spring Boot will automatically pick the latest version. Now we'll save, and now if I go back to my repository, so in the all users repository we have created an interface which will extend the JPA repository. Okay, and this JPA repository will talk to what? Will talk to the all users class that we have created here, all users, and we have to give the, since the ID in all users will be a primary key, so the data type of the ID that we have. So this is the class that it will talk to, and the data type of the primary key, which is long here, right? So now we'll create a method here. But what will be the method that will the interface will have? So here we'll call the class all users, all a, okay, and the method of find by username, find by username, and that will have a variable of username. You find the user with the username. If you have a username, find it. But what happens here is that users in the all users class, the username can exist or cannot exist. So for that scenario, if the username exists, it should return. If it does not exist, then it should not return anything, or it should just return empty. So for that, it's better to use an optional class that it will check if the users exist, so it will return me the user, and if it doesn't exist, then it will not return me anything. So this is the java.util that we will import. So this is the interface here, and this is extending the JPA interface, calling the all users class and finding the username in that class, and if that username is found, it will return me the username, right? So this is the simple repository here. So this is throwing me an error because I have not added anything in the application.properties. So first of all, let's add something here. So I have added my MySQL database URL here, and if there is no such database with the name of Spring demo tutorial, then it will create database. If it does not exist, is equal to true with the username of your that you have in the database and the password, and this will auto update all the things here, right? So since I have not added that at the rate of entity here, so I will add at the rate of entity, and for the ID I'll write at the rate of ID, and at the rate of generation type, generated value is strategy is equal to generated type dot auto, right? And save this. And if I rerun the application here, so there was one error that I had mistakenly had this n as capital, so this was showing me an error. So make sure of the syntax that find by username, name should be in small, and now the application has started. Localhost 8080. So I'll be prompted to use a user and a password. So the password is not yet generated, so I will sorry, the password is not yet saved in anywhere, so I'll be using this generated security password here, and paste and sign in, so I can access the admin pages here. So you can see that I can still access here since there is nothing, no request matches that we have created in the security config has been enabled. Why is that so? Because we have to create a user detail service class that will, so we will be creating a user detail service class that will give us the flexibility to work with the roles that we have created here in the security config class. So as you can see that since the roles have been specified here but they are still not working, is because we do not have the user detail service class here. After we have created the user detail service class, so we will be able to give them, the users, the access to access their own pages, right? So in the security, I'll create a class of my user detail service, right? And this will implement, okay, the user detail service, right? And at the rate of service class, since this is providing me a user detail service class that implements the user detail service. So what does the user detail service do? The user detail service is interface here. This is the interface that acts as a kind of a collaborator between what the user data we have in the model class, that is in the users class, and the framework, that is it helps to the user to talk to the security framework, to the framework that we are using here, so that is needed for authentication and authorization. So we have annotated with at the rate of service because this will give us a service that will give us the implementation to implement the authentication and authorization. So we have to first implement the unimplemented methods, the user detail, load user by username, the string username here. So remove the implementations here because we will be writing our own. And before that, we first have to call the repository that we have created. So the repository is all users repository and the name of repository, and auto wire it. Okay, here in the implementation section what we are going to write is, okay, so we'll first call the class all users that we have created here. This is the all users class in the model, all users that we'll be calling here, and object of that class. And what it will do, it will call the method that we have created in the repository, that is find by username, this one, and this will have username that will find the user by username. And if it's not found, if it's not found, then dot or else throw, or So this is the all users class that we have called here, and an object of it. This will call the repository of the method that we have created in the repository here. That is the find by username. This will be called here find by username, and this will pass the object username. If the username is found, it will return it, or if it does not, if it's not found, then it will throw a username not found exception with a message that the user is not found, right? So now we'll build the user builder, that is what it should return. So for that we'll use the return user.builder. User is a predefined class in Spring that will build us the object user.builder, and what will it do, it will dot username and user dot get username dot password user dot get password and dot roles and user dot get get role. Okay, and once we are done, we will build it. Okay. So what is happening here? What is user or builder is doing? User or builder is a class in Spring. User is a predefined class in Spring, and the builder method here that helps us to create user objects. That is Spring security, since we are using the security here to manage the user authentication and authorization. So this user or builder will help us to create the user objects here with the username, password, role, and this will be used by the Spring security for authentication and authorization, right? So there's nothing more to add. So what we have done here, we have a class, created a class that throws a user exception. This will call the user class, and on the repository method find by username, it will find the username by the username. If it's found, it's okay. If it's not found, this will throw the user not found exception. And what will it will do, it will once it, if the username is returned, then it will return the user builder by getting the username, password, and the role, and build the user for us for authentication and authorization, right? To save this, and okay, package name is wrong. All right. So now we have returned a user or builder, but there are no users in the database that we have seen, right? So if I run the application again, we have created the database, we have created the user or builder, but there are no users in the database. So if I go back and if I check, then I can access the pages again because there are no users in the database, that they are still there. So for that, we have to create a controller here to save the users into our database, and we will be doing that with the help of Postman, and we will be entering the users with the help of Postman. So we'll create a controller here, and so we will be creating a controller here to enter user into the database with the help of Postman. So I already had a user controller, so I have renamed it as web controller because I want the user controller class to be specific for post mapping. So now I'll create a class here as user controller dot java, and annotate it with at the rate of rest controller. Okay. So what are we going to do here? First of all, we will call the repository that we had created, all users repository, so that we can access the method specified in that. So for that, we write private all users repository and the object of that, and auto wire it. Hmm. And the next is to create a method. So public all users is the name of the class here, all users, and create a user. So we will be creating a user. So simple create user. Okay. So uh, so we have written a create user method here that will call the all users class, and with that will be saved in the user object here that we will be calling, that is the user that will be creating in the database will be saved. And what does the user need? User, since the user will have a username and a user password, so the password it should be stored in a format, that is it should be encoded. So password should not be saved in the text format, because if that's the scenario then the account can be compromised and it's not a good practice. So to save the password as an encoded password, we need to set the password. So user dot set password, we'll set the password here, that the password that we'll be saving in the database, that should be set to the use of an encoder here. So since I have not specified the encoder here, so what we'll do, see what is the encoder, it's not, since it's, since there is no encoder specified here, so we have to specify a password encoder in our class. So for that we have to use private password encoder, password encoder and encoder. Okay. And what we will do here, now the encoder is this the object of the password encoder class, and that will encode the password in a format that's not visible clearly to the user, that is it's in the form, it's encrypted format. So user dot get password, to get the password of the user and encode it and set that password and save it in the database. Simple. And what will this method return? Okay. Once this done, so it has to return something, because this is not a void method, it has to return something. So return repository and save the user in the repository, right? So save this and save this as well. And now I'll run the class again and check if the postman is taking the request. And there's one more thing that maybe I have forgotten to add, is that in the user controller, I have not annotated it at the post mapping. So first we added post mapping, and the path is slash register and save. Right. The post mapping will enter postman and select post mapping and go to the register, and we'll have to enter username, password, and role for the user and see if it's saving in the database. So let's go to postman here and post request localhost 8080 register, right? And in the body section, raw JSON, and we'll have to write our text here. Okay. So ID is generated automatically, because we have selected generation type auto. So we will not be entering ID, just the username. Let's say username is Chirag, password 1 1 2 3 4, and role, and let's say the role is admin. Okay. So before sending, Let's verify if I have entered the correct username, password, and role. So we'll go to all users and check. So we have username, password, and role. So we'll be entering username, password, role, and now send. So this is showing as unauthorized. It means key Spring Security is not allowing registered to take any requests. So what errors have I made here? So we'll go to security config, and in the request matches section, we'll see that request matches no register is here. The register is not getting passed by the authorized HTTP request. So we will enter here slash register, and anything after that should be permitted to all and a comma after that, and save again and reload the application. And now if I go back and try send, so this is again unauthorized, because maybe it's because of the CSRF. So let's add CSRF to the security config class, and where we can add it, we will go ahead here and here after HTTP we'll write .csrf and CSRF disable. Okay, and save this. So we'll disable CSRF. Cross, what is CSRF here? And what does CSRF do? CSRF is cross-site request forgery, and this is a kind of a web security vulnerability that can make unwanted requests. So CSRF can trick a browser to take unwanted requests. So we have to disable it, because what happens is, because of CSRF, the request doesn't go forward because it thinks that it's not a valid request. So if I again try, so what was the error there is that we have to add password encoder in security config class. That is, I had not added a password encoder here initially, and now after adding password encoder as a bean, that is the Spring will handle the this is the what is a bean? This is a method produced by a bean to be managed by the Spring container. The Spring container will manage this method and will apply wherever it is needed. So we have to add a password encoder here that will return a new bcrypt password encoder. Why is it required? Because we have already specified in the user detail service class that the not here in the user controller class, that we have to encode the password here before returning it. So if we do not specify in the security config a password encoder, that is return the password encoder, then the Postman or the API will throw an error, because it's not finding anything to encode the password. So once we have added this and we hit send, the request has been accepted. So if I again go with another username, such as let's say Chicky, and again 1234, but Chicky is not admin, she is a user. Again I press send. So now Chicky has also been identified as a user with an encrypted password here. So I have entered password as 1234, but here the password is saved in as an encrypted format. So to verify if it's being saved in the database, we'll go to the database here and refresh to find Spring. What's the name of the table that we had? With application properties, and the table is Spring demo tutorial. Okay, so let's go back to the table here, Spring demo tutorial, this one. So in the tables we write use Spring demo tutorial, now all users. So and select start from, all users the name of the table which is automatically created. We have not specified the table to be created, and select, and you will see that Chirag and Chiki has been saved as the admin and the user with that encrypted passwords here. So now we'll go to our database, we go to the browser and refresh here again. In here, so it will ask me to enter a username and a password. So let's try with Chirag that we have just created. Chirag 1234 and sign in. And I can enter the admin page. This is only for admins. Go home, and if I go back to admin, then I can access. To verify, if I can check user, I'll go to user and you'll see the forbidden status here that I cannot access the user page. So we'll go back to the admin again here, and there is no specification of logout, so we have to enter logout here. And since logout is not found, so we'll be adding logout, because if we do not add a logout screen or a logout functionality, then another user will not be able to log into the page. So let's go back and make some changes to security config so that we can let a user log in and log out. So before that, we'll go to a template and add a login template here. That will be our own template, because we do not want to use the auto generated template by Spring. We'll be using our own template. After adding a template here, we'll make some changes in the security config to let the user log in and log out and enter a specific page. Added a login and a logout template. Login is this template that is generating a login screen to me. That is my own user defined login page, and a logout screen, a logout page that is just specified you have been successfully logged out, and that will take me back to the login page, right? After adding these two HTML pages, we have to tell the security config that we have added something, and we need to implement that as well, because if we do not do that, this will not be picked up. So before it return http.build, we'll add dot form login, because this will enable our users a specific form to be picked up. Otherwise, it will pick the Spring default form dot login page. And what is the login page here? The login page is slash login. So if I go to slash login, the login page should be given to me, and dot permit all, and this should be permitted to all. Whoever want to access, this should be permitted to all. Second. And as a logout screen as well, dot login and now dot log out, and log out, dot log out, success URL, and the success URL for logout should be login. That is, if the users have logged out, they should return to login page, and this should also be permitted to all, dot permit all. Anyone who wants to anyone can have access to the logout page. All right. Log out for you. Yeah. So let's save this. I think I do not need to make any other changes. Let's add a login again here. Just some And now you can see that my custom login page is being accessed. I'll check here for Chirag and 1234 if he can access his page here, and he cannot access. Why? Because I think he's still logged in, that is why he cannot access. So we go to logout and he has been logged out successfully. Now I check for again, if I check for Chicky, then login, yeah, he can, Chicky can go to the user page, home, again to the user page, and if he wants to check admin, then it's forbidden for the person to go to admin page, and slash logout, and the user has been logged out successfully. We will again check for the admin, and yeah, the person can access the admin page now because he had not been logged out, so he was not able to access. So log out again and the user has been successfully logged out. So this is working right now, but I want more functionality. I do not want a person to go and manually write logout here to access the logout button. So what we'll do here is we will add a logout to the template here. So I'll copy this and paste it here, and slash log out, and here we will specify logout. Save and copy again and save it to the user page as well. Here paste. Okay, and if I go back again and try and log in as admin, now you'll go to admin page and you'll see the logout button here, home, admin, logout. You have been successfully logged out, right? So logout is functionality is working for the admin, and we'll check for Chicky again. And Chicky has come to the home page. He will go to the user page and access logout and logged out successfully. But there is one more thing that we need to implement. Since if you see that if we are entering our user ID password here, so they are going first to the home page, and only after that they, if I click manually user, then only they are going to the user page. So I want the user to directly go to the user page instead of going to the home page. So what we have to do for that? For that, we will have to create one more class here, and that will hold the functionality to redirect the request to the respective server that we redirect the request to the respective page that we want to go to, right? So we go to security and create a class as my authentication success handler. My authentication success handler dot java. Okay, and this is the class my authentication success handler. This is a class, and this will the extend the save request aware authentication success handler. So what does this class do? So this is an authentication success strategy that saves the request in the session. So when the request is intercepted and requires authentication, so the request data is stored to record the original destination, and the authentication process is commenced. So this what exactly it is saying is that the request is saved in the session by the exception translation filter. So when the request is intercepted and it passes the authentication, then this is redirected to the URL that is specified, right? So what will it have? So what we'll do is we'll save request authentication, save request aware authentication success handler as a method of on authentication success. So so what I'll do it again. Okay. So the moment I write on, so you will be greeted by the method on authentication success. Press enter and all of the method will come in front of you. So this will have on authentication success HTTP request, HTTP servlet request, and a response. that is authenticating the user. And if the authentication is not passed, it throws a servlet exception here, and we have to specify what is the authentication that we want. So we'll remove this. Okay, I'll not remove. What we'll do, we'll write in to remove just this one and write what we want to add. So what do we want here? We want the admin to go to the page that he has. That is, if he presses enter after authenticating, he should go to his admin page and not to the home page. So for that, we'll specify if the admin has the role of admin, role admin is equal to authentication for get authority. So authenticate and get the authority dot stream dot any match. And what is any match doing? Granted authority. So what is happening here is, we have, this is the on authentication success method of the authentication success saved a request aware authentication success handler class, and that is providing us the authentication through the request and the response method. So we have specified an admin role that if user with the role of the admin should be redirected to their page. So what is happening? This is authentication, or sorry, this is authenticating, that is getting the authority to stream the data. And if you found a match, then grant the authority. And what is the authority? If you get the authority and the authority equals role admin, then grant, and the role admin is able to access his page. So if you have to specify a condition as well, that if role admin is found, that is if a person with the role of an admin is found, we have specified here role admin. In the previous security config class, we have just specified the request matches the role as admin, but since it is matching the role in the database, that if it's the admin, then it's admin, if it's user, then it's user. But this is not working with the database. This is actually passing the request response on the string security. So if the person with the role of admin, so here it's not just admin, it's the role admin. So if the role is passed as admin, then the authority is granted to the role admin to authenticate itself and access the URL or access the page that he wants to access. So if role admin is true, then set default target URL. So the default target URL that it should go to directly without going to the home page should be the admin. Okay, simple. And if it's not the case, let's say if it's not the admin, then else, what should else do? Else should set the default target URL as what? User. Right? So since we have only two roles, admin and user, so we'll be specifying set default target URL. So what is this happening? So the user, the roles are being authenticated based on the roles that are found in the database. So if they are authenticated and matched as admin, then the default target URL is admin, and if it's not admin, then it's user. And if you have more roles, you can add more roles here, right? And super on authentication success, this will stay as same, that is once the authentication is successful, get back the request response and authenticate the user. Fine. So we have created this class here, but we have to add it to the security config, so that the bean, that is this bean, the HTTP filter chain that is being handled by the string security, should know that some authentication success handler is there, and it needs to be redirected. So we have to add this to the security config, right? So where we'll be adding this? We'll be adding this in the login section after the login page. So we will see that this is the login page and at the login section. So before permit all, we'll add it. So what we'll write here, dot success handler, and the name of the class is new my authentication success handler, this one, right? My authentication success handler. So the failure URL that it should go to, that if it's not passed, then the failure URL should be login error is equal to true. So if it's not found, if it's a failure, then it should show that this is an error. And after that, format all, right? So we have added these two lines of code here. Success handler, that is the my authentication success handler, that we have created a class here that will authorize a request and redirect it to the target URL that they want in the request security config section. So let's now go back and reload the page, and if I go to user logout, so now I'll again check for the admin page here, 1 2 3 4, and if I log in, it will directly going to the admin page without going to the home page. If we log out and come back to the home page anytime, you can also access the login page directly if you want, and it will give us the same functionality. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you have not yet subscribed. Keep learning, keep growing. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.